Hi guys, welcome back to Nyx Reads. Today I have my fall autumn book recommendations for you guys. I have a little bit of everything to suit everybody's taste. I have some middle grade, some YA, most of it is adult fiction. My picks are definitely more on the spooky, mysterious side. I do not have any romance in this list, just in case you were looking for that specifically, but I did make sure to include one super cozy, wholesome book in here. Also, I skipped the nonfiction genre altogether for this one, but I have a video coming up with my TBR and recommendations for Nonfiction November. So make sure to subscribe to this channel if you love bookish content and love finding new books to add to your TBR. Without further ado, the first ones are actually middle grade picks that are super close to my heart. I do not have books to show you guys, unfortunately, but I can show you my t-shirt. It's Goosebumps. If you have no clue who R.L. Stine is, he is essentially the Stephen King, but for kids and young adults. So each Goosebump novel features a new story that has new characters and a new monster or something mysterious, sometimes even extraterrestrials. They're amazing. They're eerie, creepy, usually have some kind of weird twist coming at you that you don't see. One of my all-time favorite Goosebumps stories is called The Ghost Next Door, so that is the one I'm specifically recommending to you today. And as a bonus recommendation for you, if you don't want to go all the way down to middle grade, try maybe Fear Street. So Fear Street is his YA series. All the mysteries and monsters that you see in Goosebumps, they never have anything to do with the reality, right? It's all made up. Whereas in Fear Street, it's like actual death, blood, gore, deception that happens because it's closer to real life, and they verge more on psychological thriller beginnings, I would say. And one of my favorite Fear Street novels is Switched, where two best friends decide to switch bodies and weird things start to happen. My next spooky middle grade recommendation is a book that I have been mentioning a few times now on this channel, but I can't help myself because it is the absolute perfect season to read this book. It is Coraline by Neil Gaiman, and I swear after my TBR, after I have reread this, I'm gonna stop talking about this book. It is one of my favorites though of all time. Our protagonist is young Coraline, who moves into a new apartment complex with her parents. She feels a bit lonely, she's a bit bored, and she starts exploring the house, then discovers a small door where she finds a key for. Upon opening the door, she finds herself in a parallel universe where just everything seems a bit better than in real world, but it comes with strings attached, obviously, and it also comes with people that have buttons for eyes. It is an adventure book with very, very interesting characters and themes. Honestly, the stop motion movie is also really, really great. So if you have read this already, you want more, or maybe you really don't want to read this book, then I can really recommend you that movie. My last middle grade rec is Ghosts by Raina Telgemeier, and this is actually a graphic novel, so you'll be able to fly through this within an hour or two. The reason why I'm recommending this is because of the illustrations. Wind is a very important theme in this book, which makes it a great fall read, because reading this book makes you feel chilly. It's like you feel the wind whooshing around you when you look at the pictures. Katrina, the older sister, is moving with her family, including her younger sister Maya, to Bahia de Luna, which is a very windy, sea-swept city, because she has cystic fibrosis. And the twist is that the neighbor boy tells them that this city is haunted and there are ghosts everywhere. Moving on to the adult book, so I'm going to start with my super cozy, wholesome read. It is The School of Essential Ingredients by Erica Bauermeister. The story revolves around a cooking class that is hosted by Chef Lillian, who runs a restaurant. So she's just starting out a new class with new members, and the cool thing is that you get to know every single member and what it is that is moving them at this time, like what is going on in their personal life. And somehow it all relates back to what they talk about and what they experience and feel within these cooking classes, and obviously their emotions start to pour into the dishes that they make, and there's a lot of lessons, life lessons and cooking lessons to be learned here. It's very cozy food writing, and it's like you can smell and taste the aromas while you're reading this book. I know that in one of these classes they actually put together a really nice Thanksgiving meal, So it's also on theme for that. Next, I could have not made this video without recommending The Hacienda by Isabel Cañas. If you're interested in a bit more details, I have a 5-minute review up on this channel on this book. It's spoiler free. So in this gothic haunted house themed book, we have Beatriz, who is in her mid-20s, and she moves with her brand new mysterious husband with an even mysterious past to the Hacienda San Isidro, where she is met with a lot of suspicion by the people who work there and work the land. During the night, she starts to get very odd dreams and visions and starts to hear voices that shouldn't be there. I highly recommend it to anybody who's looking for a classic haunted house with kind of a twist tale. I personally also really like the ending on this one. It is not an open ending. I know that's important to a lot of people. Of course, I really want to give a short shout out to Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia, obviously, because this is also such a great gothic tale. So in this one, our protagonist is Noemi, who gets a very distressing letter from her cousin who moves to a mansion outside of the city, and her cousin thinks that she's being poisoned by her husband and asks for Noemi for help. So Noemi packs all of her things and goes to her cousin to help her and see what's going on. It seems to be a bit harder than she thought to get her out of there and to understand what is even going on. And here we also have the feel of a haunted house, but the way this story evolves is definitely a bit more quirky and out there. If you're looking more for the classic tale, then I would choose The Hacienda over Mexican Gothic. But if you're more open for a story to take a crazy direction, then I would go with Mexican Gothic. Next, I have a contemporary small town mystery book for you guys. It is The Last House Guest by Megan Miranda. If you are into that kind of trope, then this is for you. In this story, we have Avery, whose best friend died just over a year ago. She lives in a very cozy beach town where people usually only stay for the summer, but she keeps the rentals there and upkeeps them for the whole year. And the story kicks off when Sadie's family, so the best friend who died, when they come back into town, and that raises a few new questions, and Avery starts to rethink about what happened that night when Sadie was suddenly gone. This book really surprised me because while it is not marketed as a more hardcore thriller, I did not see the ending coming, and I thought it was done in a very clever way. This is the kind of story where the town itself really is a character of its own and plays a big part in their lives. Next up, I want to recommend to you guys My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. He is a Native American writer. This book was really big, I think last year or the year before. So I ended up giving this book 3 out of 5 stars, but I think this book in the right hands can be a favorite. This is for people who enjoy a classic Hollywood slasher movies that are super gory with a lot of deaths, a lot of blood, something like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. If you like that, I think you'll really like this book. In this book, we have Native American high school student Jade. She is obsessed with a capital O with slashers. She's utterly convinced that there's gonna be a huge killing spree happening in the town she lives in, because in her mind she's seeing signs of whatever she sees happening in movie happening in real life. And one of those things is there's a new rich it girl that starts at her school, and in her mind she is the classic final girl. So she assumes that there's going to be a huge killing spree, and that girl needs to be prepared for what is to come to survive and in the end beat the killer. So this book primarily lives in Jade's head. It is honestly a trip, and it also comes with its own twists and turns. She's a very unreliable narrator, and it's hard to grasp if what she's thinking is actually true or not. I believe there's actually a second book that came out after this one. I haven't read that one yet. More than just being a slasher book is actually so much more. In an interview, I read that the author, in a way, is also using this book to get a different angle on the Native American experience, which you'll see while reading this book in how Jade lives her life, under what circumstances she grows up in. Next up, I have a Scandinavian thriller, and we all know those are one of the best. It is The Chestnut Man by Søren Sveistrup. I read this in the beginning of the year, and this actually did give me nightmares when I would stay up and read this book. I couldn't sleep well. It looks like I can't stomach thrillers the way I used to, or this is just a really great book. The story starts when a woman is found dead and essentially mutilated at a playground. What baffles the police in this case is that right at the crime scene, there's a chestnut man found, and it has fingerprints on it of a girl that was murdered a few years back. So the question is, what does this have to do with each other, and why would there be a chestnut with those fingerprints on here? As you can imagine, this is not the only murder that happens with this kind of pattern. There's more. So the investigation ensues. I thought this was a great ride. It was very interesting to follow who did it, why did they do it, and what was happening in the victim's but also killer's mind. It does have the trope of the main detective being somewhat not completely put together and their own life is kind of a mess. So that was definitely a part where I kind of rolled my eyes. So I think I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. But all in all, if you're into Scandinavian thrillers, then this is one you really need to pick up. It is quite scary and it is very graphic as well. So you just need to know that this does not shy away from very violent descriptions of dead bodies. Next, I have a book that I gave 4 out of 5 stars to, but the longer it sits with me, I think I have to give it a 5-star. Probably gonna be a book that's gonna stick with me for a long time. It's The Last House on Needle Street by Catriona Ward. For this book, I really don't want to give too much away. Even the blurb itself doesn't give too much away. It is more interesting to just go into it blindly and let the story unfold on its own. Just packed with twists and turns that I completely did not see coming. I stayed up very late finishing this book after a certain point because I couldn't believe what I was reading. I haven't read anything similar to that before. All you need to know is a multi-POV book. We have a man who lives alone in a house. We have a child, and we have a cat. So in case this is something that you really don't like, just know that parts of the stories are told from the cat's point of view. That is all I'm going to say. Just know that this is a must read if you like thrillers of any kind and you're looking for a new super unique book that doesn't necessarily fit some kind of cookie cutter trope. Next, I have a fantastic YA pick for you guys. It is Cemetery Boys by Aidan Thomas. In this book, our protagonist is Jadriel. He comes from a very special family because they all have some kind of magical abilities. The women in his family have healing powers, and the men in his family have the ability to help ghosts cross over to the other side. His Latinx family has a problem with him being a trans boy, so they are having a hard time accepting that he is to become a brujo. So he hatches out a plan where he wants to find a ghost and help them cross over to prove to his family that he has what it takes to be a brujo. So he summons a ghost, but he summons the wrong ghost. He summons the ghost of a guy named Julian, someone he vaguely knows from school, but Julian isn't quite sure about how he died, so he has a lot of unfinished business and is not willing to cross over yet. So he kind of makes a deal with Jadriel where they help each other out. They get involved in a pretty big scheme. This is a great book with awesome LGBTQ+ rep. I honestly really enjoyed this. I haven't enjoyed a YA in a long time, and this was such a breath of fresh air. And obviously, because a big part of this book takes place in a cemetery and it has to do with ghosts, it is a perfect fall read. Next, I want to recommend a graphic novel to you guys. It is called Through the Woods by Emily Carroll. I cannot even remember how I found this artist, but it is because I came across her website first, and she has a bunch of free, very creepy illustrations and stories on there, which you can read if you're not sure if you want to go into Through the Woods. I think that's a good point to start out, just to see if you like her style, her storytelling, and her drawings, because It is quite scary. This is a book that you'll fly through also within maybe an hour or so. I absolutely adore the illustrations, and this consists of different short stories. Some of them include dead people, ghosts, they're mysterious, and not all of them have a very finite, clear ending, but they're honestly just, they really set the mood. I will leave a link to her website in the description box. By the way, I think this makes such a great gift for a friend who enjoys scary stories like this. And lastly, of course, I want to give you guys an Agatha Christie recommendation. In this case, it's Crooked House. This is actually a standalone, so it is not part of the Miss Marple or Poirot series. In this book, we look at the very wealthy Leonidas family, and the old patriarch one day is found dead. So now the question is, what happened? His granddaughter enlists her fiance Charles Hayward for help because she thinks it must have been somebody within the close family. I think this is a very special Agatha Christie work, because even in the letter that you can read from her, at least in this edition, before the story starts, she says that this is one of her best. I have to say that the character work here is really superb. This is not a big adventure mystery book where you go from one happening to the next. It is really about understanding the motives and the characters, and I thought that was executed to its best in this one. Those were all of my fall and autumn book recommendations for you guys. Let me know if you have read any of these books before and if you've liked it. Don't forget to let me know what kind of books you recommend to people when it comes to the fall season. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you love bookish content and finding new books to read. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.